Good morning. Welcome. Welcome here. Welcome there on the holy interwebs. I'm Reverend G, and I'm delighted that you have chosen to spend this hour with us. Now, aside from my talk, my prepared talk, it's funny, Eric, when you did this meditation, and then you asked us to think of somebody who is joyful. And, I had no problem thinking of somebody of the other requests, but joyful, I thought, I don't know, some people present joyful, but I don't know what's going on in their lives, really. I don't know who to pick here. So it's funny how we believe the misery, but don't trust the joy. So anyway, today I am going to talk about the stranger in the land. And as I was preparing for this talk, and most of you know by now that I grew up in communism, and I was 19 when it ended, December of 19. No, okay, I was 19, and it was December when it ended. Anywho, and then, so that was, 36 years ago, a long time ago. And I always thought that the best thing about it is that it's over. And so I came to this country when I was 23. So I was 19 when it ended. I was 23 when I came here. And as I was preparing for this talk, I tried to remember what was it like to live under communism. Because I've not thought about it a whole lot. And I tell you what else is funny. When I go back home to visit, and I get together with my friends, and we remember stuff, and then I've forgotten that. I have forgotten how that was. I've forgotten so much because I haven't thought about it. Yet it was so real, and it was so formative. And I will also tell you how formative it was. So how was it in communism? I do remember the scarcity. So I was 7 years old when just about everything from the stores disappeared. Food, clothing, shoes, socks, you name it. It just disappeared. And all of a sudden, I saw these, my mom would disappear also for very long periods of time. And I would ask, where is mom? Where is mom? Well, she was in a line somewhere. Long, long lines for many, many hours. And then sometimes, and very often, they would run out of the stuff that she was lining up for. So she spent all these hours and would come home empty-handed. So we ended up in a situation where we had some money, but you didn't have much to spend it on. So that's scarcity there. Then I also remember fear. Fear of who have you come in contact with today? Did you accidentally say something that the Secret Service will learn about? They had tentacles everywhere. And then, will you get in trouble? And then if you get in trouble, you understand that you're not the only one who's getting in trouble. The whole family is getting in trouble. Especially if a kid says something. Because where would the kid hear that something that they said? Obviously in the family. So then the family would get in trouble. So I remember the weight, the fear, and the lack of trust. You just didn't know who you could trust. And that would also apply to family members. You did not know who the Secret Service had recruited. And they would recruit with blackmail. Like they would find out something, they would have something on a family member, and they say, you either work for us or. And then, you know, people are people. They're afraid. They don't want that thing to be known, or they don't want to be put away for a long time. So they say, okay, I'll be an informant. And then you'd have to give your weekly reports. And then you were told which people you had to give your weekly reports on. The people didn't know who were reporting on them. You understand? Total lack of trust. So if you were semi-conscious in that system, you were angry all the time. Disagreement or protest was absolutely not allowed, of any sort. No gatherings were allowed in protest. You could have a family gathering, you could have a wedding, you know, where a large number of people would come together, but never talk about dear leader or what dear leader does and says. And it was viewed, if you spoke against, if you had an opinion that went against the official government's propaganda, it was viewed as anti-patriotic. So if you disagreed, that was viewed as not patriotic. Now the interesting thing is, though, we did not get to define what patriotic was. That was defined for us by the government with a constantly moving goalpost. But one thing was clear. You could never question or disagree with dear leader. That we knew. Like, no way could you do that. I do remember also how it was mandatory to go to these party meetings, even for children. So the children were pioneers, or whatever. We had all little names and little uniforms, and they were breaking us in, right? So we were taught to love dear leader, never disagree with dear leader. Dear leader is perfect, perfect. I don't know if you guys are following the news, and when Stephen Miller came on and he said that the children will learn to love and be patriotic, and did any one of you follow the news about go home and look it up. And so I do remember these regular meetings, and we had to come together, and then there would be always a bunch of people at the table there, the adults, the party people, and then they would give these reports on production, on everything, you know. There was accountability was incredible. They were all lies, absolute lies. And then we had to clap after they spoke. But then you couldn't stop clapping, because if you stopped clapping, why did you stop clapping? Do you not agree? That's so unpatriotic. So everybody is still clapping, and it's just so awkward and uncomfortable and idiotic. And there you are clapping, 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 clapping to dear leader. So these were just my experiences. Also, every dictatorial authoritarian regime needs to have an enemy, because things aren't right. So I need you to understand that in dictatorships, people don't live well. They don't do well. Some people do well, but most people don't do well. So how do you control these people? You can't say the reason you're not doing well is because we're messing up everything, because we're stealing everything, because we're lying to you day and night and day. We're lying all the time. We're making sure that our pockets are lined. We're making sure that we are comfortable and fine and that we have all the enjoyment that life can offer in this system. So, but you don't. So how do we justify that? Well, the problem is that group of people. If it wasn't for them, you'd all be doing so well. But it's that group of people. They take your jobs. They're undermining you. We have to bring these terrible rules that end up applying to you too, but we can't let them not be under that sort of oppression. And then you say, well, yeah, I get it. Like, yeah, of course we can't give them a leg up, and I understand that for that I have to suffer too. But anyway, you can't come together with anybody and talk about how, is that true? Can that be so? Because you can't trust the person you're talking to. So, no protest. There's a lot of silence. And guess what silence does? It amplifies the status quo. Silence only serves those in power. But of course, you're not allowed to say that this is not happening with my consent. Silence is giving up. You're defeated already. Now imagine if you take on silence willingly. You've just defeated yourself. So I remember these things. And there's a lot of things I don't remember. And I could tell you stories about the scarcity too, you know, how, it's fine. Scarcity, fear, and lack of trust. So then, I got a scholarship to come to Ohio. A little town, it's Ashland, Ohio. And I arrive. And remember, although communism has ended, it's only ended like 3 years ago. Not quite 3 years ago. So I was formed by then. I was very much influenced by my past, right? By the culture that I grew up in. So I come here, it's 1993, and it's a little town, it's called Ashland, Ohio. And I knew nothing about Republicans and Democrats. I didn't know that. I always knew who the US president was because, you know, Europeans know that. And so I always knew who the president, who the vice president is, but I didn't really know the whole political system. And so I come from this culture of scarcity, fear, and distrust. And I land here, literally land here, and it's different. Like I've never experienced this before. People are smiling all the time. They're kind. They're having fun. Joy disappears in a dictatorship. That goes underground. If laughter comes out, that's because there was a lot of sarcasm there. And then people were so generous, so kind. They invited me in their homes. They made sure that I knew where to shop. They introduced me to places. The other thing, nobody locked their cars. Nobody locked their doors. It was like, what world is this? What kind of trust? I've never seen this before. They helped me with whatever I needed. I needed bedding, I got bedding. Dishes. I arrived with 2 suitcases. That's all I had. I didn't even have a winter jacket when I arrived. I had no idea how hard the winters were in Ohio there. And anyway, so they were just so kind and so incredibly generous. And there's no way I would have been able to identify who was blue and who was red of these people. I just couldn't. My guess is that most of them were red because this was a pretty red area. And in fact, I'm pretty sure I knew the one blue woman in town. And she was absolutely wonderful too, but so were the others. So I couldn't have, and I was the stranger in their land, and they just like embraced me and uplifted me and helped me. And, you know, they just loved my accent, and they were kind, and then they made sure that I wouldn't be alone at Christmas. And I knew nothing about Thanksgiving, but I was never alone at Thanksgiving. I always had a place to go to. And then sometimes somebody would just show up and let me take you out to dinner. It's like, what? Who does that? So kind, so generous, such a huge heart. And now. So from there, you know, to this. And apart from the fact that I just think it sucks that my life is bookended by these two. It was nice there in the middle for a little bit, but it's bookended by authoritarianism here and authoritarianism here. So apart from that, because that's just my personal little experience, I am so sad that the big heart, that beautiful big heart that was so healing for me, is changing, is closing. And now we are showing something very different to the stranger in the land. We are unkind. And it's not a bug. It's a feature in this government. It appears to me that this government wants to introduce a dog-eat-dog world. And that's what that was. That's what that was, a dog-eat-dog world. And I have to tell you that fear doesn't bring the best out of people. It just doesn't. And it doesn't have to be that way. We can choose differently. So I have to tell you about another insight I had recently. I gave this immersion class here at the church about extraordinary leadership. And it was the last class, and I was preparing for it, and I had an incredible aha moment. Let me share. So I told you I grew up in communism. Now you know a little bit more about that, how it shaped me. And then I came here, and that's what I said, best thing about it, it's over. I didn't think much about it, which means I didn't sit with it, and I didn't heal all the fear, all the mistrust. So when it showed up here, guess what happened? I went back straight there. So my amygdala just kicked in because I recognized it. Oh boy, this is the same. I know what this is. I've been here. I've done that. I know what it feels. And I felt angry and tremendously helpless. I never, because I didn't heal it, I didn't even think about it, when it showed up again, I never allowed myself to engage my frontal cortex, my thinking faculty. So I just was in helplessness and disappointment and anger, and oh boy, I was dark. And when I had that insight, I realized, wow, I too have a choice. It's like I don't have to go back there. I have faculty here. I have a choice to make here. I can think about this, and I can apply myself, and then I can join forces with people who think like me, who want a different future just like me, who don't want to give their consent to that. They don't want to create that here. And yeah, and that's changed my experience. That's changed my experience. James Baldwin said that not everything faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed that we don't face. Not everything that we face can be changed, but nothing can be changed that we don't face. So I'm facing it. And I am choosing hope because, let me tell you something. That love, that heart that I experienced back there in Ohio and wherever I went in this country is still alive and well here. And I am absolutely certain that when we emerge from this chapter, dark, nasty, ugly, it's an evil chapter, it's not a bug, it's a feature, we will emerge more loving, more knowing of what we want and how we want it to be. More awakened and not sleepwalking through our privilege, through our prosperity. We will have gone through the dark night of the soul, facing that which is happening. James Baldwin also said that the reason people don't stop hating is because if they did, they would have to face the pain. How could I have signed up for that? How could I have done all the things that I've done? How could I have said all the things that I've said? How did I fall for that darkness? That's the sort of introspection that's needed to stop the hate. And that's hard. That's very, very hard to do. And that's why hate keeps going on and on. Because who wants to go there and face the pain? The pain that hatred causes within, but the pain that hatred causes without. So, here's what I think. I think we get to choose how we want to be. I think now we understand that silence only amplifies the status quo. So no silence for us. We boldly and loudly say, this is not happening with our consent. It is not. And we shall come together and we shall find ways. And in the meantime, we shall embrace the stranger within us, among us. The stranger changes, my friends. Now it's the immigrants, but of course it's the women whose votes we want to make sure they don't get to vote because, you know, this name change thing. You see, all of this didn't happen in a vacuum. In 1986, the Republican Party realized that voting in large numbers is not helping them. 1986. So they created a long-term strategy for voter suppression. And you cannot suppress votes if you are not also feeding people a diet of fear, scarcity, and threats. You must say the reason we want to suppress these votes because, well, they've been incarcerated, even though they did their time. Because, I don't know, their names, their color of their skin, So you give people someone to pick on. You have to justify voter suppression somehow. And you start breaking up and breaking down society. And this today is when the chicks have come home to roost. But we can heal this. Because that big heart, I know that you and I have it. And it's not just you and I, but it's so many of us. And if yesterday you were on Westnedge, you see that there's thousands who are out there with that same big heart. And then you know that there are a lot of big hearts who didn't come there. But they are big hearts. And they are also willing to say, it's not happening with my consent. I do believe that this nation, which, by golly, has a checkered past at best, but somehow always finds a way to rise just a little bit higher, to be just a little bit better for tomorrow. So, in the meantime, live big out of your heart and also engage the frontal cortex so we can think together. How can we come together and undo the evil and replace it with the love that we live for, that we believe in anyway, that we stand for? Because only love can heal hatred. Only love can heal fear. And by golly, a world that is loving is worth living in. That world is so hard. It's so hard. Don't choose it. And may we not, as a nation, choose it. Because that is not good. So here's to big hearts, great minds, and courage together. And so it is.